Welcome everybody to episode 16 of the LPL English podcast. I'm joined by first time debut of Cubby, and then Grapes just decided he wanted to tag along for the night, so felt like we needed to balance it out with two colors on the show. Cubby, welcome to the podcast. How have you been?
Yeah, I've been all right. I honestly, this split with the LPL, I know that other people on the team have kept up with the games more. I've been kind of playing catch up and slingshotting back in for my casting days because I just don't have as many. So first time I kind of felt comfortable actually hopping on the podcast, and we're going to talk about more than just the LPL, which I'm kind of interested in as well. So it should be fun. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Grapes?
We need a first of all, great to be back. I think my first time on was episode 1, and so it's been a long time.
Oh,
so I'm glad I'm making my grand return. And we need to come up with a new name. We need to start brainstorming because an LPL English podcast, it's not good for the.
What do you mean? It's SEO is insane. You look up LPL English, the podcast is going to come. You're going to look up LPL podcast, and it's also going to come up. The SEO is there.
And the SEO is there, but the creativity is not. And I feel like we need to balance that out a little bit.
What are we sacrificing for big data? You know, that's what we need.
They already know where I live, man. So there's not much else I can give these people. All right, but we had some topics, like Cubby had kind of mentioned. We had some stuff that's been happening around the league, and usually for the podcast, I'm the one that kind of curates the topics, but Cubby felt like we should talk about stuff that's outside of the league, and I think that's probably for the best. I realized, I was like, guys, we can only go over TT versus LGD so many times before we run out of stuff to talk about. So we have some stuff that if you haven't been paying attention, or you just avoid Twitter like the plague, which probably means you're a better on average human than most people. So yeah, let's see if I can grab this.
Yeah, I guess like some of the idea of this too, some of the discussion has been about, I guess, if there is enough LPL coverage. So, maybe we have to just dip our toes into their area. Just cover the big.
Oh, don't worry. Don't worry. I've got that tweet up. I've got that tweet on.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
I'm just teasing.
All right.
I'm giving a hard time.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to make our own LPL podcast to make sure that there's enough of there's more of them out there. Maybe
there's more. We need to have a podcast to review the podcast.
Yeah. The SEO value though.
So our first topic here, kind of a new one, but Sheep Esports announcing a sponsorship with Polymarket. I did some very light research just so that we have some baseline facts. Sheep Esports is based in Belgium, and Polymarket is also banned in said country alongside countries like France, Brazil, and a couple of other European regions. So there's been a lot of talk. I know that there's some people that are saying like, cool, there's money coming into esports. I know a lot of people, myself personally, are against what is essentially legalized gambling now with prediction markets. So, Cubby.
Yeah. You want me to kick this one off?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So, money coming into esports, like, we do need money. I have been vocal for being a little bit laxer on gambling sponsorships overall for the teams because it's a lot of money on the table for them, as well as I personally, like Hotline League, Travis was sponsored by Prize Picks and I helped him out with that show, right? I use sports gambling apps to gamble for fun. I'm probably down money overall. It's responsible for me. I enjoy it. I understand what comes with gambling. Prediction markets and sports gambling apps, it's very different in terms of the rules and regulations behind what is allowed to exist on those apps. And Polymarket and Kalshi are ways to get around some of the gambling laws in areas where sports gambling may not be legal, or also gambling on other subjects may not be legal. And sometimes that's for like a good reason. I mean, we had our own administration like have to place a ban retroactively on people insider trading on these like websites. Like, it's and part of that is again like the rules and regulations and why we don't see certain topics that make their way on the sports books, right? It's why they exist on the prediction market. So essentially, with the partnership for Sheep, one of the biggest market movers in terms of news and just a source of news in the space, is now partnering with a prediction market. And I just think that this is a really poor partnership from Sheep in terms of ethics and trying to be a journalistic entity, because now, I mean, some of the stuff that I enjoyed from Sheep in the past was talking about rumors. And like, I think that's why he initially got his following. You can't do that anymore. If you do that, you are potentially manipulating the market for a sponsor. And I think that Sheep does their best. I think they're not always 100% correct, not to the likes that a lot of journalists are in sports or other fields. So, like, what happens, or if they release information, can we even trust them just given who they have as a sponsor? It's this type of sponsorship just should not exist for their vertical. So I called it the least ethical sponsorship that I've seen from Polymarket, as they've made their way into the space and work with teams and other entities. And I stand by that. I really don't know how as Sheep you can take this partnership and not leave everything that you report on from here on out as, wow, like I can easily question this and your motives given who one of your partners are. And that's a big issue in journalism, and especially for the vertical that they're in. I just think that you cannot cross streams here in terms of taking this type of partnership.
Yeah, I think like sports gambling partnerships are one thing that, you know, you can have your own opinion about and go back and forth with, in terms of, is it ethical? Is it encouraging gambling behavior? You know, I think in general, most of that is yes. We've seen profits from these gambling companies go through the roof year after year after year since the Supreme Court case got put in place that allowed for sports betting to kind of be put back into online markets. On
that note, by the way, Grapes, you know, the two youngest billionaire CEOs in history were created by the CEOs of Polymarket and Kelshi.
Yes.
They're the two youngest billionaire CEOs, speaking of money coming in. And,
but
sports
there are these, you know, there are regulated markets that have laws surrounding them, like DraftKings, like FanDuel, like, you know, Fanatics, all of those sports books. And having partnerships with them is one thing. And the reason why I'm less, you know, hesitant to support those kind of deals versus something like this is because of the regulation that is involved. I think you did mention, Covey, the whole point of Polymarket and Kalshi and these prediction market apps is to get loopholes to kind of escape from, you know,
because they're not
the rules
gambling on like it's a prediction.
Yes,
you're trying to predict
you're putting
something
a stock in the who he goes over to Sentinels. You know,
they're commoditizing opinion. It's crazy. You know, like they're turning it into a commodity. It's actually wild.
And I think in theory, like these markets and you know what these people say, like in terms of like it's a really good way to, you know, get base information because like people will put their money where their mouth is more than like what they will say online, right? Like you'll be more willing to you'll be more likely to be accurate because you're like, you know, putting your own money in it. But that, you know, doesn't become the case when there's all this insider trading that's involved. Like there are these stories of basically massive bets being put into Polymarket by some entity about the oil, like the global oil pricing, right before the U.S. announces some trade deal with Iran that like will, you know, open up the Strait of Hormuz or something, and the money goes up. These guys immediately profit, and there's no way of tracking where any of this is from. That can be very much carried over to a similar level of what's going on here, and it just, again, being the journalism website that's supposed to be, you know, doing, you know, in charge of spreading rumors. And this is, to many of us here, like we all make content in the space. I think a lot of us have now felt comfortable enough to use Sheep as like a new, like a truth-worthy source when looking at rumors and talking about off-season stuff. So having all of that come into question and is going to be weird. And that's not even to mention some of the, you know, questionable advertising decisions that they have been making as well in the space.
I mean, like, more context too for when I work with Prize Picks. I was a Riot caster. When I signed my contract with Riot, I couldn't gamble. Before I started in 2022, I did streams with Forrest when it was still Forrest Within, like him gambling on MSI in 21.
Yeah.
And with Prize Picks, I mean, I pretty much like Mark. We had to go through Mark to see if I could be approved to show up or not. And that was one where we felt more comfortable doing that just because it's not the result on games, so therefore we do have more of an expert opinion and deal with some insider information. But also, Prize Picks is legal in some areas where sportsbooks are not. Like that's a version of rules and regulations where they're trying to, I guess, like that's still a pretty regulated industry, and because what their game is, because they're not technically a sports book and it's a game of skill, they could apply to some areas that sports books couldn't. So there was more accessibility, and we viewed that as like okay, like that's a little bit more ethical than partnering with like a sports book, right? Polymarket's the opposite of that. So just kind of like more details, or like how I've even had to dance around that personally, like as someone that does enjoy gambling, did handicap this a little bit before I started like officially casting for Riot, and yeah, like I would feel far less comfortable taking this than I did like with Prize Picks. So yeah.
People on the show who may not know me or only watch the LPL podcast and then they go on to watch whatever, due to the nature of this show, you're probably going to hear me speak fluent woke for a long period of time. This is going to be probably my most woke episode I've had on the show. There's a whole list of things that I kind of like want to get into. So like, one, personally, my personal view, I think that gambling should be nowhere near any of our teams. Like, giving teams gambling sponsors potentially puts into like a conflict of interest of like, well, if we're now incentivized to do X, what is the result of Y when we go onto stage? And then that just ruins the credibility of the entire esport. When, you know, we would like to believe that every game is won by game of skill and not someone predetermining a result like we saw with Nayo. Second, Polymarket and all of the predictive stuff, like as both of you have said, allows for insider trading to be at an all-time like heightened value. You now have people who are saying like Apple is going to come out with X product on this day and then put in like an anonymous bet. Boom, now you're gambling, or you're putting a value against like the rest of the market. You get paid out, they get to leave, and they can be people who have worked inside of Apple. We have proof of Google employees putting in like certain bets for big announcements that are coming out from Microsoft and bigger tech companies.
Or like adding words.
We have
adding words to like speeches that were probably
like the one that comes to mind is watching the U.S. administration basically say, okay, like the speech is going to end on either this amount of time or this amount of words, and then they end within 35 to 45 seconds of that timer right before it. And it's kind of cheeky in the way that they did it. There's no proof in which we could prove that they actually are looking at the prediction market, but it is heavily, heavily implied through everything else that has happened that this is going on behind the scenes. And then having like Sheep Esports, I personally always look at Sheep Esports with a kind of a slant, because when Sheep or Wooloo originally started this guy was getting massive flack when we still had regular highbrow esports reporting, when we had Fion on Fire still reporting, when we had Jacob still reporting on the leagues. We had multiple people saying like, this is unethical what you're doing, or at least like you are really damaging the integrity of the field by doing all of these leaks in the way that you're doing it. And his response was always, well, I'm doing this for the fans. I think that this drives up value for the players. And so to see this alongside Winamax, who is also a sponsor of Sheep Esports already and is another gambling org, I think is not surprising, but continues a long line of really disappointing and I think complete collapse of like real journalism with any kind of integrity.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the days of ESPN when, you know, Kelsey, who now works with us, and now
Emily
Rand and Travis, and those guys were writing legitimate stories, and now it's come down to this. I mean, it's not just an esports exclusive thing. Like, if you go to ESPN now, like 10 years later, also gambling ads all over the place. They have like a huge sponsorship with DraftKings, and they post the lines to everything. Like,
it's their own sports book too. Like, yeah.
Well, not anymore. They sold it.
Yeah.
Sold
Oh,
it
yeah,
off.
yeah.
But
yeah.
It, you know, that was its own problem, right? And it's at that point. But I think again, just with these prediction markets, like even if you are like looking at it from some certain perspective, like just think, if you just take a step back, like and like think to yourself, why would this like kind of basically sports gambling but not sports gambling thing like become so popular, and why are these people like doing all this stuff with it? Is like there's definitely some like shady stuff happening underneath that is allowing for them to prop up, you know, and earn profit and things like that. And not to mention all the strange marketing stuff that has been going around. I mean, I know that this is not a super new thing. Very clearly, like some of the different content around the space have now started to include prediction market screenshots in some of their Twitter posts, and you are seeing quote retweets of them in a very suspiciously optimistic and not an ad, but does definitely looks like an ad kind of way.
I mean, we have teams like Team Liquid doing that, right? Like,
yeah, I mean TL specific.
Like these are all public, at least public tweets.
Like there's like weird stuff happening here, and I don't feel super comfortable about any of it. And it's also not only that, it's like really annoying. Like it's like annoying for me to look at.
It's low quality is what he's saying.
Like, you know, ChatGPT a response to like some BS that got thrown out on some Twitter account without any real thought put behind it. I'm personally not really a fan of it from either of those perspectives.
It's almost as bad as like that AI graph of the predictor of who's going to win pops up on the LPL, because I feel like that thing's wrong like 70%.
You get mega triggered to see that, but at least that's like ethical.
Because well, in sports, I think it's really cool. Like Grapes would know too, but they'll have a really accurate predictor of who's going to win the game at what time, like based on just a boatload of data, and it's a pretty accurate. Like you'll get like, oh, this team came back even though it was a 94% chance the other team's going to win, and everyone's like, oh, that's like pretty accurate. So whenever I see those graphs pop up and I just think they're freaking wrong for the LPL, I just get a kick out of it. Because for sports, I think it's a pretty accurate barometer, but that's just tracking mass solo queue data. It's not tracking comp data, which is way more accurate in terms of like who's going to end or like what's strong and where.
Something from card games, specifically as someone who watches Magic the Gathering like pro, they used to have on the screen when you would see like the board state, you would see both players' hands. They used to have like a slide that would say like advantage, and you would like slowly creep up in one player, and then you would see like one play from the player who is losing, and then the thing just completely gets wiped out. It's like, oh hell yeah, the game is swung in more ways than just as like what's verbally or visually being told to you by just looking at the game, which I thought was really cool.
I think a lot of this conversation we're having here like kind of ties into the next topic that we're going into as well, just because like having money in esports is always a big conversation, right? And having just more content to talk about stuff. The brand new Polymarket _LOL account, their first post that seems to have been getting a lot of traction is about the LPL. And you know, normally these big accounts don't talk much about the LPL, but now suddenly this is happening, and you know, seeing is BLG gonna win this, and then you see the little graphs and everything. Like, should we be happy about that as a community broadcast for seeing our league be promoted in some way, or not? And I think that's like, it's kind of like a lesser of two evils, and like a bad thing that it's like it's very frustrating as somebody who is very excited about this playoffs and all the crazy things that have happened to see like this really be the main way that people are consuming the content at this point.
I have no qualms of potentially working or not working on this product in the future anyway, so I don't really care. But we've made like very internally, I will say, blatant like why we are not talking about EWC. That has been a thing that has come up a couple of times, especially in chat when there are EWC games that have happened recently or are coming up. There's some people who are like, hey, like, why aren't you guys talking about it? And I myself have made it clear to everybody on the talent that at the very least we are not to mention it because it is not part of the LPL. But as a stance for me, I can't get behind having the EWC with the things that are happening over there. So like in a very similar way, like people want money, but, and this is a personal stance, you can feel free to disagree, but if we need this money to survive, I don't think it is worth having. We do not deserve to have this sport if it needs to have money coming in from EWC, coming in from places like Polymarket and predictive gambling and just regular normal gambling. We're not doing gambling plus, but now we have 2x. I don't feel like our esport needs that to survive if we want to enjoy the thing that we love. So I'm okay if people don't feel that way. I know some people really like just having more League of Legends, and kudos to you. You can enjoy that. I watch 0% and keep up with 0% of the results for EWC. I don't care about the event. Even if they made it literally the best tournament in the world, I don't care. Same stance with AI. You can make it as advanced as you want. I still think it's dog shit. I'm not going to enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, even to that point, the formats and everything all suck too. So it's like not even like you're missing out on much. But I do agree with that as well, where it's like, how far are you willing to go to have this be have this become a thing? And it's very clear how astroturfed a lot of this stuff is, and it's just it's kind of sad to have to.
A reminder that Grapes' opinions are all his own. None of his opinions reflect his employer.
Well, yeah, that is true.
I just want to make that clear.
I will say it's a very similar, it's policy that we actually, we take on the LCS as well. It's where it's like, we're not going to talk about it. If players bring it up, you can bring it up. If there's but we're never gonna create any content that mentions it in any way. It's just not worth it for many of the people that are involved, including myself.
Cool. Let's move on to the next topic, which we did kind of tease a little bit towards the end there, which is, I didn't know how really to kind of name this, so I took LPL versus the world. I pulled some tweets that have been kind of popping up. I did have to pull a fellow mutual of a lot of us on the show in Shynock, but this was Draco. He has been covering the French side of coverage for LPL, and typically I do see him interact with a lot of the fans and the community very naturally and organically is the word I will use. So there's been a lot of topics about, or a lot of talk the last couple of years really, but this is a long standing conversation of how do we get Western audiences to interact with the LPL when there are many things that are working against us, not which included is we share a time slot with the LCK.
The broadcast is probably not the best way to do that. So.
There are so many people that still do not know that there is a broadcast for the LPL, by the way. They just think that the games aren't streamed. And I'm like, well, either you're not looking, or probably the simpler answer is that we are not getting in front of you enough.
Is this data you're getting at events or league events you go to, or
league events
just
and then
chatters that come in?
Almost not even just chat. I look at threads online. I'll be honest, I'm looking at Twitter. I never go on Reddit, but there are so many people that are under these comments that are saying well, I stopped watching when the official broadcast ended, so there's no way for me to watch the games anymore. And it's well, that's fair. I think that's completely fair. It's not on you to be looking for what is a fan-made broadcast. I will also always advocate that if you don't want to watch us, that's completely fine. I just want you to watch LPL. Go watch a co-streamer. Go watch whatever content creator you prefer. But watch LPL.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely history with this. It's not just now. I think
agreed.
English broadcast-wise, the LPL has never gotten the same support as the LCK. Just going back to the days of OGN, it's kind of cool working on this project with Kelsey Moser because she was a part of the very first English broadcast that came through for the LPL, which is neat. And I know personally, I didn't follow the LPL until Season 5, and that took the LCK exodus. It took Deft going to EDG, and I really liked Deft as a player. So that's when I started to watch the LPL and kind of follow along. But really until I started working this project which would have been last year, that's probably the first year I've watched more LPL. I always just watched the playoffs, but the regular season were always such a cluster. But yeah, the only point of issue I'll take with David here is the LPL is the second best region. They just are. There was a stint where EU was, and that's fine. But yeah, LPL is, and I will also say that I think we'd be remiss to not actually bring up the fact that Vestian also had a thread about LCP and lack of English viewership there. Because I think that also
that's actually where this tweet is from. Originally, the tweet that you're seeing on your screen from David, the tweet above this is Vestian essentially
Yeah.
asking, how can we get more English viewers? And looking at the responses, it was, well, the teams that I might care about or the players I might care about don't really exist, aka like CFO is not the same team that it was last year, because all of the good players from this region get picked apart and sent to LCK, LPL, and then
I
also
saw
the time
Molecule
slot
talk
is
about that.
worse.
Yeah, the time slot's tough. So it's not like these issues are solely stuck with just the LPL, but I think it definitely speaks to the value of having more investment in a broadcast over a long period of time. Because yes, Korea is the best region in the world, but it's also really hard for me to not look at the support they've gotten throughout the years with their English broadcast from OGN to now, and not also say, oh, they've always had more support, because they have. And I think that's made a pretty big difference throughout the years. So yeah.
I mean, even in the years where the LPL was the best region in the world, whether it be the 2018, 19, 2020, where they won a majority of the international competitions, or did very well at Worlds for those years, they still the regional broadcast still didn't get as much support as the LCK, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was always treated as like a secondary league, and obviously secondary enough to where they got rid of the official English broadcast at the end of 2024. I mean, I personally could say the same thing. I think until I joined the team last year, probably watched single-digit games of the LPL per split. Would mostly watch the LCS just because I had the time for that. A lot of my time, especially since going to college and starting working in this space, was also in NA Dev. So I was watching a lot of Collegiate League, a lot of NACL, a lot of NACL qualifiers, Tier 3 stuff. So in terms of international stuff, really didn't have time for much of it at all, but definitely was more tapped into the storylines of Korea, Europe, and then maybe even some of the other regions before going over to China. I know David has gotten a lot of or David was, this has been like a topic of conversation between some people here, which is fine, and he made a video responding and everything like that. I personally can't blame him for his thought process. He's a busy guy and has a lot of time, but it's just if he wants to watch the LCK a lot, that's great. But I didn't love the way that some of the responses were phrased to kind of punch down a little bit on what like the LPL was, I guess, in a way.
That or also like when there is a big story going on, you might not be able to give details about it. Like I agree with big headlines. Like this was a big headline of the last week, what WE's been doing, and BLG's.
Yeah, that was my big criticism.
Yeah, it could be covered with like, oh, I don't know, but like this is going on.
Like
right?
You could at least like mention it a little bit, right, or in a leak PDF.
Yeah,
it's a big story.
So let me, to context for everybody who does not see the rest of this thread, after this last tweet, which is it's not a cop out since LPL won an international, I go in and I'm basically saying like, your headline, your YouTube video is literally titled League Headlines, like League Weekend Headlines, which maybe you do not intend this. And he made a joke about this in his next League Headline videos where he's like, maybe I should title it like My Headlines. I don't have a title to like fix this issue, but League Weekend Headlines sounds like it is international. I then go to your content and you're talking about NA, LEC, LCK. That sounds international to me. So all of the through lines are looking like we are showing off international headlines from the weekend. And sometimes he'll cover CBLOL stuff if it's big enough. Like he covered, I don't know if he actually, I don't remember if he did this exactly, but there was also the Mago versus Envy storyline. Yeah, from right before First Stand for Loud, where they got their new mid laner and the guy basically like dipset and he was like, my coach is not faker, you can't, like, he covered that, but he won't cover WE taking 2 series off. He ended up making a short about it, by the way, which I for David, if you are watching this or you see some part of this, I am, as you have mentioned yourself, I cannot tell you what to make your content about. You're an adult. It is your content. It is your channel. As a viewer, I would love for you to also cover some LPL. I know that you're too busy. That's okay. I'm totally okay with that. And he ended up asking, like, here's a compromise. I don't have time to cover LPL. Can you give me a content creator who puts out at least one video a week and at least one short a day? I did not answer this tweet because I don't know someone who covers LPL in that way. I think in the same way that he wants it to be. K-Man will do a video like once a week or maybe twice a week, depending on the frequency and the cadence. But he does not do league headlines in the same way. He does not do like the narrative through lines of the week to week of the league. I don't know what his short output is. I also don't watch a ton of shorts. So he would be the first person that I would offer up as a content creator. But there is nobody that is doing like bylines of every single week. And maybe that is something that I need to just take a mantle on and people or have someone on the show.
As, a lead content creator, community broadcaster of this league, I feel like a lot of us do feel like we should have some sort of responsibility to kind of carry that weight in terms of delivering content for the league. And I think a lot of us also do a good job with that. You mentioned K-Man already. People like Slayer and Yanni make a lot of short form TikToks and reactions to either their calls or just stuff about the LPL in general. So if I was going to name like a short form creator, I'd probably go towards one of those guys. But it's not an easy thing for all of us to do individually. And so collectively, we just, have to, I guess, do a better job because, Riot clearly is not interested in doing much to support the LPL from an English language perspective at this point. And so if we feel like these storylines are important enough and need to be shared, that part of that falls on us. Part of it falls on other people who are also very passionate about this. I know like Nymera is constantly in the League of Legends subreddit posting about results and posting different things. So
yeah,
there are people that do care. It's just now we need to kind of keep that going to make people more excited. And I think something like WE going on this big run and all the Nirvana craziness that happened is always going to be a good thing because it raises some eyebrows. People that don't normally follow are going to start to tune in, and now we got to make them stay now that they're here for a little bit.
Shout out to Aragon, Trouble, and Kitty as well when they're able to co-stream as other ways to
I know
LPL.
Kitty's like always perma-streaming, but also she is insane. She is streaming like 4 different regions at the same time most of the time.
Know how. I mean, I could not co-stream. I really couldn't because I find a lot more joy of like prepping and then trying to be effective on a broadcast for a few hours, and co-streaming, it's just not the same. Like when you have someone to bounce off of, or you're just trying to listen. Honestly, a lot of the time, so I'd get so burned out. I don't know how the big co-streamers do it. I don't, but
she's insane. She always puts in every time I turn in her YouTube, her title for her Twitch, and then I see her is LCP, LCK, LPL all at the same time, and she like just flips through the games back and forth, and I'm like, you are insane. You are
Red Zone
dedicated to the craft. Yeah, actually though. So, as I continue to say, I don't care where you watch LPL, although I would prefer if you watched it here on the LPL English. Just watch the LPL so that you can come to international events and you can tell the little plebs that are trying to talk shit about the LPL. You can say, no, that's wrong. No, like this player is not bad. Yes, Knight is still the GOAT. All right, cool. Is there anything else when we want to talk about LPL viewership and the international perspective on our league?
I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way where you take away the resources and less people are going to care about it, obviously. And so it's a lot of inertia to try to fight against that. And the last thing, I guess, is just the K-Drill effect too, right? And this also is in conjunction with the fact that the LPL and the LCK run at the same time. K-Drill, the biggest co-streamer in the world, only able really to watch one series at a time, and most of the time he prioritizes the LCK.
He was watching Bro versus DNS over a playoff series in the LPL. Like
all right,
be for
Bro's
real.
Hot, but
let's be for real.
Usually though, that they just watch the best games, and you're gonna miss out on what's going on if that's the case.
If there's a K-Drill fan that's gonna start throwing hands though.
No, I mean, that has become the meta, though, right? Where LCK is considered more valuable to watch and more interesting than the LPL. I'm not sure like the best way to fix it, but if you are a content creator like K-Drill who needs the most eyeballs on him as possible at all times, and the LCK is the more popular league, I don't discredit him for focusing on that. Like that's what he's wanted to focus on. If he wants to really make sure he knows the LCK as a league as a whole, and he thinks that watching all of those games is going to give him the best chance of doing so, I don't necessarily blame him. but there's also it's just unfortunate because if there's different time slot or if different situations existed, maybe it would be a little bit different. And that's just the way that our industry currently functions, is that basically viewership relies on whenever that guy turns his stream on, and that determines what is popular and what is not.
Yeah. Before we move on from this topic, I'm just gonna get it out right before we move on. I also do think a large portion of why the LPL is unpopular, or at least is less popular, is a little bit of racism. Just a tiny bit. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Do not look at chat. There's a reason why when people say things are low quality, they say made in China. They say Temu. There is a ton of...
Shout out to our mods team. They do a great job.
The mod team is doing great, but there is a lot of built-in discrimination towards many different folks, but especially the USA between the 1900s to now have done an insane amount of work as a global superpower. And that's all I'm going to say for the sake of my fellow people on the show. But I told you guys I was going to speak a little woke on the show tonight.
Hey,
so
not wrong.
And my tweet, I was trying to vague max, but then there's some people in the comments who may have figured it out. That's all I'm going to, and that's the last word I'm going to have on this. We're going to move on. We're going to actually move into some more actual playoff stuff. We're done. There's no more outside of the league stuff we're going to talk about unless someone decides to hijack the show. Let's look at our standings, our playoff bracket, because if you have been under a rock, or if you've only watched from LPL English podcast episode 15 to now, you're like, what happened? You're going to see one of the worst playoff brackets in your entire life.
Worst or
and
best?
It starts with WE.
Yeah, it depends on what you mean by worst, because it could be the opposite, as you're saying, Cubby.
I think it's the best, but I know a lot of people who are very upset that WE decided to go 6-1 versus BLG and AL.
Should have been better.
True. We had a lot of games. We don't have to go over every series, but gentlemen, is there any series outside of the two that I just brought up that really intrigued you, or you thought like, wow, there's maybe something that could be learned here about some of our other teams?
Yeah, I think Top versus JDG. Tien had a really big series. I thought Junjo was quite good for a lot of parts of the regular season. Tien pulled off, but was an MVP candidate for the majority of the season. But just to see him really get the best of that matchup, I thought really dictated that best of 5.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this whole playoffs has been the story of kind of almost a changing of the guard in a way, in more ways than one. We saw, obviously, 3 of our Group Nirvana teams qualify up, many of which featured rookies very prominently throughout. Technically, LG doesn't have any rookies, but players like Tangyuan and Hung are getting kind of their first crack at being in the top 8. With Thunder Talk, you have Keshi and Haru, and then for EDG, you had Sunyeon coming in and showing up kind of out of nowhere and making their way into top 8. And I think a very similar situation could be said with Top as well, because I thought in that series against JDG, the bottom lane and then the top side of the map, the top lane really was big difference makers.
That was crazy, man.
Like seeing what Jackie Love and Feng Yue were able to do to Gala and Vampire was pretty disgusting. They really looked like the better 2v2 after. I feel like Gala and Vampire had a very good regular season as well. Same with Xiao.
Vampire had a good regular season. Gala he's been missing for the last 6 weeks, I think.
That's fair. That's fair. I put Feng Yue on my All-Pro ballot. I felt pretty good about that, seeing this series. I didn't put Zoyan, and I put Xiaoxiu instead. Maybe feel a little bit less good about that. But yeah, shout out to Zoyan as well. He played really well.
All right, let's just talk about the nukes. Let's talk about the nuke series. Cubby, maybe? Did you have something?
No. Is it WE time?
It's WE time. Let's get into it. So WE, 1 win away from MSI, 3-0 AL the other night. They 3-1 BLG. And for folks who didn't watch the BLG series, this was, at least in my opinion, this was a 4-0 from WE.
That's what I've been saying.
I feel very strongly that game 2, if they don't mess up the level 1 invade and like most everything else stays the same in that game, I think they win that game. and we're talking about a 6-0 into upper finals.
It was unreal watching that series in real time, and then a couple days later waking up and seeing that it was I opened up the stream, I see 3-hour stream, probably pretty quick AL 3-0. Was not the case at all. That was the more interesting thing to me, was how dominant they were against anyone's legend.
We were together that night, Grapes, and like we're on the way back, and we were like, "There's no way that AL loses this series to WE, right?" And you're like, "I don't know." I was like, "No, Tarzan's got this. He did not have this." No. And I mean, I think this is one of the. Honestly, these playoffs for me have been one of the better arguments for the LPL, because back when I didn't follow the LPL and Dom was doing a lot of coverage, I think the one thing I always agreed with Dom on when I got my chance to tune into that region was it always felt like there were more good teams that were not sent international that could go. And it speaks to some of the chaos of the LPL that there were years where I felt like there were 5 or 6 good teams. I don't think I've felt that in the last couple of years, but... And the bad teams of the LPL were, like, really bad in the past. So it's not like the floor of LCK. But I always thought that, like, given they had a lot of teams, there were some years where there were teams left out where I would have liked to see them at Worlds, or maybe thought that that was a deeper league than the LCK some years. This has been a year where there's been a lot of chaos in both the LCK and the LPL with the standings. And it's been kind of fun to see the LPL at least catch up to that. And it's not like some of the players on WE... like Monkey has proven that he can compete at, I think, a really high level in the jungle before. He was a big part of WE's run in Split 2 of last year, where I actually thought WE was playing really well around Monkey. They had a big win streak in the middle of the round robin, and then kind of cooled off for playoffs. But they were a fun team, and it was a very Monkey-driven team. To have them like have this regular season, then turn it on like this, I think it does speak to some of, like, I wasn't sold that BLG was the best team in the world coming out of first stand. I just don't think that their run was challenged, and I still think the LCK top teams are better. But I also think it speaks to some of the depth that we have in the LPL, and it's been nice to see that with WE's run. And I see some players that, like, I don't really believe in, or I've counted out in...
Goodbye, Cuban Karis, bro.
Yeah, like Cuban Karis. Like, dude, I've been watching Karis for so long from the LCK, and this is, like... He's just not a flashy player. He's not.
No.
He is a mid that you look at, and it's like, okay, what mid is in the Challengers League? I don't even care. Like, he should get looks when Karis is on a team at times. And the run that he's been on, and then the series that Cube has been having, is someone that really is just a tank player for me. It's been one of the, I think, one of the greatest playoff runs so far I've ever seen. And if they go to MSI, I'm just curious to see how they do, because I'm not going to view them as a top 2 team coming out of the LPL, but it would be fun to see a team that I think can be competitive at times with the top of the LPL, as they've proven, go international and see where they place. Because I do think the LPL has quite a bit of depth that was proven in these playoffs between the Nirvana results and the WE run that, I mean, it's a hella upside-down bracket. It really is.
I mean, they weren't even a competitive team.
They were not competitive
in the regular season.
Not at all.
I would talk about the depth of our region during the regular season this split, because there were teams like IG, NIP, and Weibo that weren't at the top of the table when competing with like the BLGs, JDGs, but they were able to take series off of them. Obviously, we saw Weibo make their top 3 run in Split 1. But I was always considering that as like a group of 7, and then maybe LNG as the 8th team. I don't think anybody ever considered WE to be kind of in that conversation.
That's also true.
The best part about it is we were spending the entire regular season as, okay, whoever gets first in Nirvana, your gift is you get to play against WE. You get to play against a Group Ascend team and get your free spot. And then they not only take 5 games, they get out of the play-ins, but then they take down 2, like, I would say right now, BLG AL are probably like the two of the 3 biggest orgs from just last year.
BLG is the favorite to go to MSI. They are.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And if I would still doubt WE, even if they're the 2nd seed, as like, okay, like, are you really a top level team and we send you to MSI? Yeah. If they have a competitive, I'll set the stakes here. If they get to grand finals and they have like a very competitive series, like if I see them go to 5 games versus whoever is in that bracket, if I see them,
what do you mean, man? They're gonna fucking sun them in 4. What are you talking about?
If they win, if they 3-0 finals, like, I kind of just have to say, like, okay, you guys are the GOATs. Like, there's nothing else I can do about it.
So far, they
you
have
guys
been.
very clearly, yeah. And now you're going to face off against top esports. You're going to face off essentially against 3 of the 4 top teams in the league, and you're going to very convincingly beat them. I have no reason to doubt you after that.
Dude,
Like, there's
big thing for me on this run, by the way. Fucking justice for Erha. Holy smokes.
Yes.
I love Arha so much, bro.
Yeah,
yes, man.
He's gotten some sick justice in this run because I really feel like Weibo did him dirty. And this is a league where I think we've seen a lot of young supports be kind of done dirty because they end up just defaulting. I think a lot of times LPL just defaults to experience in that role. We've seen it a lot.
Crisp.
But, yeah,
Pong.
like him stepping into this team and I mean, I don't think he was a giant problem in regular season, but he didn't look great. I mean, the team was really struggling. And having the playoff run he's having with Monkey and some of like what WE is doing with their strategies, I've really enjoyed. And I fear that if a team takes them seriously and diagnoses a few things about what's going on in draft or some of the angles that WE is using, maybe they'd lose the sauce. And that's kind of what the sauce was. But man, would it be fun to see this team go to MSI? I kind of have to root for them at this point, just given what they've done so far. And given Monkey unanimously is someone that needs a better team or needs to go to a better team. Because he really is a player that I want to see what he can do. I really want to see what he can do.
I think Monkey going to another team would be cool. I think he is too much of a, like, he needs to be like a big portion of why you're winning games. He needs to be the captain. And even... There was an interview that was done where he basically talked about, like, so when we were in the middle of the split, I was having a lot of conflicts with my teammates because they weren't listening to my calls. And that kind of hints to like a bigger, like they were basically like criticizing them mid-game and like each other and getting at each other. And that's why he took the break. He then comes back and he's like, I realized that while I think my decision-making was fine or like was the way we were going to win the game, the way in which that we have to conduct ourselves and the way that we have to like that we are going to win is based off of like trust. You guys need to trust that like what I'm doing or what that I'm calling is the right play, and that comes from mutual trust, not just I tell you to do this thing, you're going to do it. It's I need you guys to like be behind me and I am going to lead us to a win. Not only is it with Hube and Karis, who we were considering as like some of the worst laners, potentially the worst players in the league at their roles, but also like Arha is coming in and is smoking kids. Yes, Aragon, your boy, this guy's a huge Arha hater. This guy wants him out of the league fast. And then about LCKCL AD carry has had some issues. I think he's had some double lift moments where he steps a little too far up and then dies. But even in their losses, this kid is pumping out damage. This guy, I really think he is a potential star in the making, and I'm hoping we get to see more of that and more of that growth. It's not going to be like, hey, we're going to call our shot. This guy's going to be the best AD carry now, but like, I want to see what this guy can do throughout an entire year, and like, if we can give him more, is this a potential? Is there something here for him in this league?
I mean, he got a big upgrade at support, in my opinion, over what he had in Split 1, too. So just getting another opportunity.
Rest in peace,
is really cool, and he's had a really solid playoffs, and something that it's I feel like some of this is a little bit magic in the air kind of thing, just like what W did during Split 2. But the performances and the team fights that you see out of About, they feel way more real than maybe some of the other stuff that's out there right now. Like I do feel confident in this kid. It would be fun to see him go up against Genji if they end up making it out of that lower bracket gauntlet that they're in.
I hate the road to MSI bracket. That entire playoff. It's not playoffs.
That needs to get nuked.
Playoffs.
That no finals needs to get nuked. Yeah, it does.
Fast.
Maybe last thing here is we got to figure out what Monkey did on his vacation. He had like a Dennis Rodman 48 hours type situation and he came back locked.
He needed Vegas.
He needed Vegas. As soon as he came back, they won. They won their first game against JDG. They beat IG, and then they took other really good teams like TS and
games off of AL.
Yeah, and
TS,
AL. 2-3 games, and before even getting to that point. So it wasn't, even though it was a 1-13, even if you split up when Monkey went away to when he came back, the game record even is much better. 0-14 to then 6-13 or whatever it was.
Okay, verbal meme. I'm gonna talk you guys through this one. You know the video of like Homelander sitting in the theater watching himself, like reacting?
Yes.
It's gonna be LPL fans watching WE's run N to send TES to another international event.
No.
LPL fans have to watch Top Esports go to another international event.
Yeah, I made that joke halfway through the regular season when they were like 6-0 or something, and someone asked me like, "Are you?" Dia was asking me like, "How are Top Esports fans feeling?" And I was like, "Well, we already know that it's kind of over. Like if we go to international, they're already like preemptively ready for the choke. So we're not like Top Esports fans are not worried. They know it's coming. They just have to. It's just there."
So Zoyan and Funway, they've got some good stuff going on. I think
a fun team.
I think
It's a really
I think
fun
Zoyan's been one of the best stories of the split, and 369 I think very highly of as a player, but he did not have a good split one.
Didn't have a good split one. He didn't really have like a good last
Zoyan's
year.
kinda nasty
I don't want to
with
put I don't want to like put too much pressure on 369 because like last year was okay
he
on
won
Top
split
Esports,
one
but
finals for him, and then things went boom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then everything else kind of went to the wayside. But there was just a lot of problems with that Top Esports just in general. Like, we're swapping out supports multiple times. We had Hung come in for Split 3. It's a Kanavi team, so, like, how much influence is top lane going to have?
Hung was a choice.
Yeah, Hung definitely was a choice, but they made top 4.
I will forever stand
they
by.
made top 4 at Worlds. So,
Forgot about
but
that.
I don't even know if 369 has a job, right? Like, is he going to come back? If he does come back,
shouldn't
then
lose
it
his,
has to,
that's for
hasn't
sure.
played solo queue in like 2
Yeah.
months is what the rumor
So-
is.
yeah,
right?
so Swayon would need to be bought out by another team.
Yeah.
And Top Esports are one of the biggest spenders in the LPL. So there's, I assume his contract is going to be a pretty penny for any team that wants a top laner. And who really is like in the market for a top laner right now? Especially, I also do think Swayon needed to learn how to play top lane without his jungler in his lane. And he spent basically the last half of the split doing that because we went top lane a lot with TN in the first 2 weeks of the league.
What is one of the games that Top Esports lost to JDG? I think I saw someone in Jackie Love's lane like level 2 or 3. That's not a good. That's usually how it goes for top, you know.
Yeah.
If someone's in Jackie Love's lane at level 3, it's usually not good for Top Esports.
He's already been traumatized having Shun sit in his lane when it was a Nidalee Kindred meta in 2024. He was just like, we're gonna 2v2 dive you with Kalista Renata, and you're gonna lose the game. It's like, well, I have Mako. I'm playing Senna Tom Kench in game 1 of the finals.
Well, it
I'll
do be
just
like
take
that.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
it just
I'm
be like
saying-
that.
All I'm saying is I see a team that maybe has a replacement in top lane that could happen. That's doing pretty well in the bracket right now, and the name might start with a W and end with an E.
No, you can't. No. This team, if I'm gonna be lazy in terms of story making, I feel like this is like our version of a CFO. Like we took some prodigy players, we took some noobs, and we're gonna bring them up. And if you break up this 5, this team is not the same.
I
no
need
way.
to go see Cube get farmed in an international event. I just need to see it personally. All right.
No. We're not doing that. We're not doing that.
I must see it personally.
One of our last subjects here before we move on, we do have 3 of these teams are now in the lower bracket. BLG versus EDG are going to be playing tonight when we record this, so we'll know the result by the time that this comes out. But JDG has to face the winner of that series, AL playing against LGD, and then there's a meeting later on. We might have none of our first stand attendees make it to MSI, which would be obviously like an incredible upset from the first round, but I guess like how are we feeling on these 3 big teams now?
It's so crazy that JDG and BLG, our 2 first stand representatives, will be likely battling for a 5th-6th finish in the league. It's just pretty unbelievable when you take a look at both what Split 1 ended up looking like and how competitive those 2 teams were in the series, both series that they played against each other, and also what they looked like during the regular season. They were still our top 2 seeds in the regular season. JDG went on this huge win streak right towards the end of the year. BLG looked like the most dominant team. They swept the all-pro ballots on the LPL side, not necessarily on our side, shout out to Tien, but it's crazy that they're meeting here in this position. To me, it's really set up to be a BLG Golden Road, though. Like, if they, or not a Golden Road, but a lower bracket run for them. Like, the table has been set. If they want to prove that this super team, with an upgraded bot lane, theoretically, dropping Elk for Viper, bringing in Shun, winning first stand, if they want to prove that this year is going to be different than some of the other years that this organization has faced since their inception, this is they're gonna have to go on the run. Otherwise, definitely a lot of questions are going to be brought up as to what happened here.
I think BLG JDG. I think BLG's hardest matchup is JDG. Just because mid jungle team for me, and for whatever reason, like AL, I really like their drafts versus EDG. I feel like they use Flandre's pool really well and put that series out pretty well. But then they just like got decimated by WE. And look, as cool as WE's run has been, I'm not gonna gain respect for you with how I've seen BLG and AL play WE. Now, BLG
but you said,
me,
but I can't doubt them anymore. You just said you can't doubt WE anymore.
Yeah, I can't, but also I still think that these teams should be taking
Here's
care of
your
business.
flip-flop, lo, bro. Here's your flip-flop.
Oh my, these teams
Like-
should be taking care of business. They should. Especially AL, it was kind of a shameful 3-0. It was kind of a shameful 3-0 for
That
AL.
was sad. Yeah.
So
It was a bit low.
I don't have faith in AL. I just can't after that. And BLG for me, they're such a dumb team, but they are the all brawn, no brain team. They always have been that way for me. And I have the most faith in JDG and Tame to beat that. So I think that's their hardest test. And if BLG wins that, then I do think that unless they face top esports in the lower bracket because of a WE win, if it's top BLG, I'm giving it. It's a 50-50. I feel like I still have to give it to BLG because Knight is just Cream's dad. But yeah, I feel like I'm also scared of that matchup because top for me right now with how they've been playing with, I feel like Tien kind of was limit testing at the end of regular season and has now used that info to just have better decisions so far from what I've seen in playoffs. So it's been a hot start for me for top esports, and I'd probably still have him favored against WE.
Just checking something real quick. Because you're saying that BLG should have their toughest opponent in JDG. I don't think JDG has beaten BLG in a best of series since like
This year?
Since
No, they beat them in
February.
Split 1. Yeah.
They beat them in Split 1, but like it was a
They beat them both times in
best
Split
of 3 in the regular season. They beat them
Yeah.
twice in the regular season, and then that was it.
I think
And then they
in
met
theory
them.
for me,
They met them in upper finals and in grand finals, and it was 3-2, 3-1.
in theory for me, that should be their hardest matchup, even if it hasn't been on paper. Just because the way that I feel like JDG really hard commits for mid jungle in their drafts and how they play. And for me, that's the roadmap for beating BLG, is you just have to try and find a way to beat Knight, as hard as it is.
Yeah,
They haven't. Hold up, I'm getting the exact date here.
They didn't beat him this split.
They
in
have
regular
not
season.
beaten. JDG has not beaten BLG since January 26th.
Sheesh. All right, well, we'll see if that changes.
I do know, if I remember correctly, technically, again, this is the only reason I know this is because I had to keep up on the EWC qualifiers because the reason why we were online for part of the play-in or for all of play-ins was because Weibo couldn't make it back in time. JDG did beat BLG once.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Blood
Yeah.
Money Cup doesn't matter in terms of results. So
this is going to be a very fascinating lower bracket. I do think that AL got kind of the Mickey Mouse run through it by getting to play LGD in this round versus having one of the other opponents here. I would say they're probably the weakest out of these out of this group of 3.
I can't believe TT almost reverse swept that. The fact that went to 5.
I'm so mad.
really
I was
hope-
producing that series. Oh
I really
my
hope AL
God.
fathers them. If AL doesn't father
Please.
them, then they will lose to JDG BOG. They really will. I just was not
Yeah.
sold by AL at all against Team WE. It was really disappointing for me.
No, I think AL have. If I were to rank them, I still would probably go right to left here. Like BLG is 1, JDG 2, AL 3. But like, I really feel like JDG and AL so far in their playoff series have been
I-
some of the
yeah.
least convincing
Yeah,
of our
I just
top
think
four.
the sauce for me with AL was always Tabe's drafts, and then they kind of peaked with Shanks. And I just do not feel like Shanks is playing anywhere close to good enough, and Hope's also not playing well. And the drafts are not as consistently there, or like the winning angles are not as consistently there. That's a good team fight team, and I feel like their one flaw is that they maybe fought too much last year. That's an okay flaw to have. Like that's a pretty human flaw for a team that I feel like sets up fights pretty well. I don't feel that identity at all this year, and it's been really weird to see them lose that.
We also had like the aura entrances from people coming into the arena, which I have been really enjoying, by the way.
Those are
I'm
good.
glad that
No,
we're
keep
having
it
a
up.
little bit of fun again back in the arena.
Tough look for Knight, by the
what's up?
way. Losing in
Yeah.
after coming out in the bond. I don't care how well he played in the series. If you're in the chair, your team's got to win.
He played
Yeah,
really well in
yeah.
that series.
He did.
Um,
He did have an okay series.
He did.
He tried
but-
his best, man.
You're in the fucking chair. You got to win. You got to win.
So, for anybody who may have missed it, BLG, when they came in, Grapes and I were on the call, and I didn't immediately recognize this,
didn't
but I should have,
recognize it.
so that's just me being a stupid noob. But they had Knight amongst his four teammates sitting in what is known as the Bonjour chair, which is essentially a StarCraft term from
Yep.
esports, where it is the best player from a certain era or period of time. And it is like not through specifically like stats or like tournament results, but is like generally agreed upon by the entire community as like the best player of X amount of time. And Knight has been the best player within at the
God, yeah.
very least the last 3
he
years,
deserves the chair.
if not the last 5.
Don't get me wrong. He deserves the chair. You just can't be in the chair and then lose the next game right after coming out of the
And
chair.
then lose to
I don't care.
WE. That was crazy.
Faker would not do that. I know
Yeah.
the Knight versus, like greatest mids, like one of the greatest players we have in the world. I'm down with that argument for Knight. He deserves it. But we can't lose when we are in the fucking chair. All right, we got to come out and win. We got to come out and win.
That series, if you know what I mean.
This is mega. That's mega aura debt immediately.
I want to say, Dimitri, that it pretty much. I might have gotten this history wrong, but it kind of comes from the OGN trailers, or like because they ran the StarCraft productions.
Yeah.
Because in the trailers they put the best player in the chair.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it was like
Yeah.
kind of like because they just kept on doing that. I want to say it caught on, but I'm not exactly sure on the history.
Yeah, it was. So like it was already a term, and then it became like more popular online when they started doing trailers, and those were some Omega OP trailers, man. Like they had some. They were OD on them. There's some crazy shit they just started doing. Like there's the very famous one where they had an entire tournament inside an aircraft carrier, or an aircraft like hangar, and that was
Yep.
really cool. But yeah, the intros for like old esports, that's definitely missed nowadays. Okay, I'm gonna put you guys on the spot before we close out the show. Two of these 3 teams likely not to make MSI. It sounds like you guys are all going to say ALJDG. Does anybody want to be a contrarian?
I don't think so.
I think the winner of JDG BLG can also make it, and I will favor BLG, but again, we'll say that stylistically right now, I feel like JDG plays into BLG / better matchup than AL. So I think winner of that is
Right.
who makes it.
I think,
I'm feeling big stupid, by the way. Go ahead, Grapes. I'll let you.
I think as bad as the result looks in game score, the series that BLG played against WE could have very much gone to game 5 if a couple of decisions could have been made as well. You said it could have been a 4-0. It could have also very much been a 2-2 going into game 5.
Yeah, agreed.
If they just didn't decide to like run straight to end the game after getting that dragon, I think if they just played that game out a little bit longer, they would have won. So with that being said, BLG's macro is certainly a big issue. The throwing of these giant gold leads, letting Monkey run straight into your enemy nexus. in Italy,
10,000 gold lead in
really-
game 3. And
really bad,
just-
really bad stuff. If they can just clean some of that up, if they can VOD review, they have a whole couple of days to go and do that. That I think is one of the easier things that they'd be able to fix versus just like having, because they're very clearly the best mechanical team, and we've seen what they are able to do when everything is clicking for them. So I think it has not been very long since we did see BLG in top form, and so I'm not super worried about them like all of a sudden completely losing it like over this next week. So I would really expect them to go on this run and to make top 2.
I'm feeling like big stupid because I made a 90-50-10 for LPL for this playoffs, and I said 90% chance BLG wins the whole thing, 50% chance that BLG lose less than 4 games throughout the whole tournament, and 10% chance that TN is going back to MSI. Everything is going poorly. They've already lost 3 games.
If there's anything that I've learned about BLG, it's that when I feel like I can trust them most, I can't trust them, and when I feel like I can trust them the least, I should probably put a little bit more trust in them.
Yeah.
You should watch more LPL.
They should have. It's good.
No, I've watched a lot of LPL, which is why I have those feelings. Just every once in a while, just random series. Oh, goodbye. All right, BLG can't do it. It's like, oh, BLG's been shaky late. Oh shit, it's been a night. It's just been a night game. It's fine.
They're gonna 3-0 again.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Yeah, it's just a BLG like all brawn. You can't beat the hands. It just is what it is.
All right, well, we're coming up towards the end of our show here. Cubby, where can folks find you over this next week?
At CubbyXX, tune in for my Twitch for NACL playoffs. We'll be co-streaming the lower bracket final and then on the broadcast for grand finals. So should be a fun way to wrap things up. And yeah, I'm glad that we didn't talk about any other popular drama that happened on Twitter because I couldn't talk about that. So anyway, continue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Nice. Lead the horse, but then say you can't drink.
We're not taking Discord audio for this podcast, so it's fine.
That actually happened to me yesterday, by the way. Not that
Really?
exact topic that you're talking about, but because I was producing yesterday's show, which for everybody is TT versus LGD. I don't usually have streamer mode on, so I deafened myself so that I could listen to my casters, and someone said, did I just hear a Discord notification? And I was like, oh, fuck me. And I was like, let me...
That you could have been bad if your sound was a little bit different.
It could have been bad. Yeah. If I had a worse Discord... Thankfully, my Discord join sound is the metal pipe crashing sound, which infinitely way better than
Which is
what
good.
the event you're talking about.
I would advise whoever the adult was of the player in that team who has that Discord sound notification to probably not allow that in a team environment. But, that's just me being a 30-year-old.
Yeah. Anyway, Grapes, where can people find you this week?
I was wondering. I was confused for a second what you meant, and then I
me too.
I remembered. But yes, shout out to LPL. Watch us every day the rest of the week. I believe that's right.
Shout out to LCS playoffs as well, which we'll be working on the weekend.
On the weekends you should tune into the LCS playoffs. We got our road to
Go up in Arizona or something, right?
Heating up. Yeah, we got TL FlyQuest on Saturday, C9 Lion on Sunday. Those games should be fun. I will be there. So if you are in the LA area and want to go watch the games as well, you should go check that out and say hi.
Cool. Well, thank you everybody for watching episode 16. If for some reason you guys can come, I've begged you guys now for almost 16 weeks. Please, if you have a better name for this podcast, Grapes was already matched, but
I thought
can't
you
beat
didn't
the
want to
SEO.
change the
Okay.
name. Well, what's going on over here?
I've been begging, but no one. But after like 3 weeks, everyone stopped giving suggestions. So I said, you know what? We're just gonna keep it. I need my search engine optimization. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us. Remember, we're gonna be live for the rest of Split 2 playoffs and also doing coverage for the midseason invitational coming up soon. So if you guys have any ideas for questions you want to ask in interviews, you can join our coffee and get some exclusive perks on there. And make sure you're following us on LPL English on everything on YouTube and on Twitch, as well as Twitter. We'll see you guys next week for another episode of the podcast.